For those of you who might not know who we are, we combine solutions-based journalism with thought-provoking events and gathering people together with calls to civic action with the aim of reviving citizenship and democracy in the American city where it was born. I wanted to thank and encourage you to find out more about our partners on this event, PA Youth Vote, Better Civics, Young Involved Philadelphia, and Fitler Club, which are all organizations that are doing the work we champion at The Citizen to get people voting, to create community, and to encourage civic engagement. And I'm really excited to have Changing the Conversation for Progress here tonight to share and train us in work that I think might be an answer to what ails our democracy, our inability to listen to each other, to find common ground, and of course, to vote in high enough numbers. Without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Adam Barbanel-Fried, Founding Director of CTC for Progress, to get this started. Thank you.
Thank you, Philadelphia Citizen, Ronnie, and Ralph, and everyone on the team for all of this. The co-sponsors of this event for coming and checking this out. Some of you who don't even really know what this is about. Jen from Better Civics just said, so what exactly is this all about? So I told her she was actually supposed to bring her saxophone because we're about to do it. She didn't bring it, so I don't know what we're going to do about that. My name's Adam Barbanel-Fried. I'm the founding director of Changing the Conversation Together. And all joking aside, how many people here sometimes feel like the world is on fire? Can I just hear people welcome? A couple shout out. What's one thing that made you feel that this week? Raj.
The Pine Barrens are literally on fire. I came back from Long Beach Island and there's over 11,000 acres.
The world is literally on fire. Other things, please. Yes, ma'am. Tell us your name. Rosina.
Mostriano actually polling close to Hero.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So when the Uvalde shooting happened, I knew nothing was going to happen, so I said I gotta start now.
Oh, all the shootings. When's it going to stop? In Texas, in Philly, so many lives being lost and damaged, even if they're not killed. It's just, how can we handle this, right? Anyone else? Yes.
Highest rates of traffic violence we've ever seen.
Traffic violence.
Most people killed on our roads ever in history.
People are stressed and going crazy, right? And the intense way that we even think about things and talk about things, we don't even know how to cut each other off without killing each other sometimes, right? That's one of these are some of the problems of our world today. Here's one problem that we try to focus on. There are so many people who care about these issues that don't vote. Our organization's affiliate, many of the people in this organization who are coaches at the tables with me and others, we canvassed in 9 wards in 2020. We had nearly 12,000 conversations, making unlikely voters much more likely to vote. But guess what? There were still, in those 9 wards alone, 115,000 registered voters who didn't vote in 2020. In 2020, Raj said to me, I know Raj because I just introduced myself to him, we're best friends now. He said, this is the most important election of our time, that's why I'm here tonight. Right? You ever feel like you've heard that line before? Getting people out to vote is so important. And yet, even when some of us feel like the world is on fire, there's a whole world of people who are not connected to that same sense that if I vote, maybe we can respond to the gun violence, to the fires, to all these fires that are going on, literal and figurative, right? These are the problems. Here's the good news. We have found, through deep canvassing, that we can engage these folks, that we can connect with them through building trust and connecting personally, not through issues, not through arguing about issues or lecturing or like many people when many traditional canvases where you come in and you have a whole series of arguments or messaging about a candidate. This isn't about a candidate. Our canvassing is nonpartisan canvassing. Our canvassing is about the conversation that happens between two humans, the canvasser and the voter. And that's why we're so excited to have you with us tonight, because we want to invite you into this with us, because we need so many more people like yourselves who did the good, great, wonderful first step of showing up, even if you thought you were supposed to bring your saxophone like Jen. Here are a few things we've learned. We've been doing this in different forms, with different hats, with different organizational entities for the last few years. We're the first organization that's really used deep canvassing in this way. We started in New York in 2018. We were invited into Pennsylvania. We had, as I said, between September 6th and November 3rd, I believe, was election day that year of 2020. We ended up having over 11,500 in-person, what we then called safety first deep canvassing, because we figured out a way how to canvass safely without anyone getting sick. And we've learned a lot of things from this experience. The first thing that we've learned is that there are thousands of people out there who are hungry for conversation. But we have to take the time to find them and to figure out how we can be good at having these conversations with them. The second thing we have found is that there are thousands of volunteers who really take well to this training and find it not only to be an effective way to respond to these things that keep us up at night, but also a meaningful way to engage with people they otherwise wouldn't connect with. But we have to take the time to train ourselves and support each other. And that's why we have some of these great volunteer coaches who you have with us tonight. Some of our greatest canvassers and coaches, some of us who've been with us since day one, like Carol Smolensky right in front of us. The third thing that we have learned is that it works. And I just want to ask Ralph to show one slide, if that's okay. In 2020, we were talking to low propensity voters, people who were infrequent voters, unlikely voters, some might call them. After the election, if you have voted, I can look it up. I know that. I can't find out who you voted for, it's a secret ballot, but whether or not you vote is public record. So what we did was we compared those people who were infrequent and unlikely voters that we did speak to, and compared them to their neighbors, and looked at what kind of an impact did we make. And so this is what you see. We were looking at people in 2020 who had voted, ideally, we were looking for people who had voted in 0, 1, or 2 out of the 3 prior presidential elections. And so how much more likely to vote were these people after we spoke to them? Interestingly enough, the people who had voted in all 3 elections, all 3 prior presidential elections, were still 6% more likely to vote. That was kind of intriguing. Wonder what that was about. What was interesting is that as their past voting history went down, our impact went up. The people who had no history of voting for president, including Obama in 2012 or 2008, were 29% more likely to vote when we had a deep canvassing conversation with them. So we feel like we're on to something. And we are so excited to be inviting you to this. Tonight's agenda has 3 parts. The first is we're going to show you a deep canvassing conversation and debrief and talk a little bit about why are we talking about people we love? What does that have to do with voting? The second is we're going to help you, we, our coaches, are going to help you create your own personal deep canvassing story that you can use at the door. And then the third thing that we're going to do is explain how this fits in to the second part of this training. This is part one of a two-part training. The second part takes place in the field. This Sunday, we're going to be canvassing. Like we have been canvassing every month of every year, we're going to be canvassing this Sunday. And we're going to talk about how this fits in to that whole experience. So without any further ado, I'd love to turn it over to my colleague, Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen. My pronouns are she and her. Adam gave you a little bit of a feeling about deep canvassing, what we do, what we don't do, how it's different. But really, the best way to understand it, it's sort of like playing chess without ever seeing a chessboard, is we're going to show you the chessboard. You're going to watch a video of Adam and a voter, potential voter called Kim. Now, I have to make one important point. It's in the summer of 2020, and then CTC was a partisan organization. Now, we're not. CTC for Progress is nonpartisan, but we don't have a video yet to show you how we do a nonpartisan deep canvass. But it doesn't make much difference because the really important stuff, how we tell a story, how we get the voter to tell a story, same thing. So we're going to show the video and a couple of things to watch for while you're seeing it. When you watch Adam tell his story, pretend he's talking right to you. And think about what is he doing and saying that makes you feel something, that makes you feel connected to him. What feelings does he invoke in you? And most importantly, how does it get you want to tell a story? And then when you're watching Kim and Adam asking questions of Kim to help her tell her story, notice how he's really listening. What is he doing to show that he's really listening? And then finally, when he makes the pivot and he connects the story about who he loves with the story about who Kim loves to voting, watch how those things go together. So we're going to take about 7.5 minutes. Watch the video. Feel free to take notes if that's your style. And I'll be back, as they say on MSNBC, on the other side.
Now is you're absolutely not voting, says you're definitely voting, and everything is exceedance. You're not voting?
Yeah, I'm not registered.
Are you eligible now?
Yeah.
Okay, so since who do you do? Someone say something.
Kind of.
You're off. Is there an answer going left?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah? What's his name? No, my last name. Yeah. What's he doing today?
Good.
Yeah. You guys been together for a while?
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
A lifetime of
How old are you? Let's see what.
So there's more, but this really shows you the story exchange, which is what we're focusing on today. When you come out and canvass with us, we'll do the rest of the script and you'll get to learn about that and practice that. So what was surprising about that for anybody? Anybody was surprised? You expected to see something else?
I think the guy was asking too many personal questions when he was asking about, he should have asked her the voting and that's about it, but he was getting about a boyfriend and about a relationship, and that was just too personal.
Well, welcome to a workshop on deep canvassing, because that's the whole point of deep canvassing, and we're going to teach you why we do that personal stuff. A conventional campaign would have immediately tried to register her, right? You care about this stuff, you don't vote, you're not registered. I got a piece of paper right over here, I can register you. Does Adam do that? No. And he doesn't do that because registering someone might or might not lead them to vote, right? It's a first step, it's a necessary first step. But he's going to go on his way. Kim's going to go home and play with her dog and talk to her boyfriend and live her life. And come November, she may or may not vote. And to understand how we move her from being registered to actually voting, we need to know her. We need to ask her those embarrassing personal questions. We need to connect with her on a human level and show that it's important to her to vote for someone she loves. And that's what the whole thing that we've seen then, that Adam goes into that, because the way we connect with the person is by sharing our story and getting them to tell us their story. And it may not be a story, but at least to talk about someone they love, so that we can connect on a really human level before we do the transactional work of registering someone, right? So where do you think that Adam showed his humanity to Kim? How did that come out? How did Adam show himself as not the typical person who knocks on your door and hands you a piece of campaign literature? How did he show Kim that he was a human? And you calling people haven't spoken, I'll get back to you. Yeah.
He opens the stage for her to be vulnerable, but first being vulnerable himself and sharing his story about his love for his wife.
And what else does he talk about? What does he talk about? Why does he love his wife? It's who? Yeah, it's Raj. I've learned your name is Raj.
He was comfortable and willing to express that he got angry about the teacher's reaction for his school, but the love and understanding that his wife expressed helped him overcome that anger.
And he's angry. Why? Why is he angry? Yeah.
Because the administrator didn't seem to be willing to work with his wife over their son's difficulties.
Yeah, he's frustrated.
Right.
He's got this kid he really, really loves, and he shows us his love for his kid. And he's frustrated because the school isn't helping his kid the way he wants it to. So I'm going to trip over this table. And he's showing his vulnerability by showing us his love and fear for his kid, his love for his wife. He's angry at the school. So how many of you have been in a situation where you were really frustrated because someone you loved had a problem and you couldn't fix it? How many of you? Right. So probably when Adam knocks on the random door, stops the person on the street, and talks about himself and his wife and his son and this education he wants for his son, it's going to resonate with them. It's going to make them feel something. It's going to make them think, maybe not about a time that's similar, but about someone they love, someone who relies on them, someone who they relies on, right? It's a relatable, common experience. That's why Adam's story works, and that's the story that you're going to tell before tonight's over. So what about when Adam is talking to Kim, which is in fact the most important part of the story? You'll hear us say this 1,000 times. They're not going to, the thing about your story, it's really important. Why? Because it opens the door to their story. Voters are not going to remember a thing we say. It crushes me. I think my story is Pulitzer Prize winner. Nobody's ever going to remember it. They're going to remember what they say, not what we say. So the really important thing is for Adam then to turn to Kim and talk about someone she loves, or maybe he should have stuck with the dog and talked about the dog she loves. People have tried that. And what does he do? What does he do to get Kim to open up and talk about her boyfriend, talk about herself? What did you see Kim? What did you see Adam do in his talking to Kim? What does he say to her? Let's start with. Was there a hand that I missed?
I thought there was almost a hand.
Huh?
I thought there was almost a hand.
Oh, so let's start with this. She says, "I'm not registered." What does Adam do about that? Hardly anything. He's not judgmental. He doesn't say, "You're not registered. How is that possible?" He says, "Oh, all right." And then when she says, "I have social anxiety," that's a big thing for us to tell a stranger. How does Adam handle that? Anybody? Yeah.
He doesn't put her down about her mental health, and he talks through it about why the boyfriend is so important, because he helps her overcome that when he's with her.
Right, exactly. I saw a hand over here too. Yeah.
And he also relates it to people he knows who have the same problem and what a difficult issue it can be.
Yeah. He's not. He He's curious, right? He wants to know the guy's name. He wants to know what they do for each other. If he went in with assumptions, oh, here's somebody who's got social anxiety. I know about everybody who's got social anxiety. I'm going to make my assumptions. I'm going to operate off my assumptions. None of this would have happened, right? None of this. But he's curious about Kim as a distinct human being, and he's talking to her the same way. There's no magic. It's the same way you would talk to people you meet places and you're curious about, right? It's a very, very human exchange. He does a few things. He's quiet, right? She makes a vulnerable statement. He doesn't fill the space. He's quiet. He doesn't jump in with questions. Sometimes we get really anxious when the voter's talking. Silence is your friend. Just pause. Just wait. They will fill the silence. We don't have to. The other thing is, you pointed out, he's kind and patient. He's really sweet, and I got to tell you, he's kind of really sweet in real life. But he's super sweet when he's talking to Kim. He's fine with her being nervous, and even says, I hope I'm not making you nervous. He isn't rushed, right? Most of you who've gone canvassing before, it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Hi, knock on the door. I'm here for candidate so-and-so. Here's a piece of literature. Have a nice day. And then when you get back to where, you got the clipboard, they want to know how many doors you knocked. We asked that question because we're curious about it, but we really want to know about the conversations you had. And if it takes 15 minutes, that's fine. We're not rushed. If we rush, they'll rush. And they won't get in touch with the things that they love and why they're really going to go out and vote. And then finally, simple, open-ended questions, right? He starts with simple questions. What's his name? How long have you been together? What's he like? And again, he's just really, really curious. So the result of all of this is that by the end of their conversation, she registers to vote. And like Adam said, we know who votes and who didn't. She voted. She went out and voted. She didn't just register. Yes, thank you for that. Thank you. So to recap, we tell and elicit stories because it's the only way we know how to help unlikely voters see voting as something they want to do. They don't do it for us. They have to want to do it for themselves because it helps us build trust to tell stories, and it helps us to understand them and talk to the person in front of us and not the mythical voter. So we don't make the case talking about politics and voting until after all of that. The trust and the connection is established. It just wouldn't work if we tried to do it sooner. It just wouldn't. Arguments, opinions, facts don't change people's minds. The science shows that's not what gets people out to vote. So now you're going to be able to do stuff for yourself. We're going to spend most of the rest of our time in your pods. That's what we call small groups. You're already there, sitting around tables with your coaches. And you're going to develop your own deep canvassing story by working through I'll get you a second, exercises with your coach, and then we'll come all back together again.
Everybody ready for this? Okay. I love my one-year-old granddaughter, Zelda. She's so innocent, so sweet, so responsive. I love my husband. He's one of the most generous people I know. A friend later in life, but okay.
I love my cousin Kim.
I love my mom.
Now we're going to talk about what that was. Not so much the content, but what did it feel like to talk? Let's do this first. What did it feel like to talk about people you love with a table full of strangers?
To kind of walk up to a stranger on the street and have that conversation to me is just, I guess, a little out of my comfort zone.
Okay. It's not something we do all the time. which is part of why I think CTC's approach is to actually get you to practice it. It's also not the first thing in a CTC canvas that you say. You don't knock on the door, the person opens the door, and you say, "Hi, I'm Susan, and I love my son Alex, he's a goofball."
It's a person you love. You start with, "I love so-and-so." A moment in time when you were with them, and why you love them so much at that moment, what they did, what was a characteristic about them, what was it they did, and how did you feel about it?
The first one is you're going to jot down the name and the role of someone you love. Just one person, prefaced by, "I love so-and-so, my whatever." The second thing you're going to do, and we're going to have 2 minutes to jot down these 3 things. The second thing you're going to do is jot down maybe 5 words. It's not magical. Why do you love them? What makes you love this person? Why did you choose this person? And the third thing is maybe a sentence or 2 about the moment in time. Where are you with this person when you're loving them? Someone you love, why you love them, and one moment in time. We'll take 2 minutes.
Yeah, here's an example. I love my daughter Katie because X. For example, there was a time when blah blah blah.
I hear you.
And I understood then how much she will give up because she cares about someone else.
Oh, that's lovely. I get it. I think I just needed it repeated.
The goal of the story, is a story that you're in with her.
We don't want to have too many facts that maybe will distract the listener. But great, Lily. I like your reflection, and it'll be interesting to see how you incorporate.
For me, it definitely would be helpful to know what the end goal of the whole interaction with the person is. Like, for example, like if I know like the guy on the video, like if I'm tying this eventually into why we're voting and why I vote, like I think I would be more selective in the moment that I choose to share.
There is a script and the story, and that's something we go over at the canvas.
I think that if you can create something that's relatable, that could be relatable. It's not going to be relatable to everyone, but if you can create something that's relatable, that's what's going to make the voter or whoever you're speaking to remember the moment even more.
Creating something that's memorable is helping, they're bringing out a real human emotion and connection. It may not be the same as yours, but that connection will help them to be vulnerable as well.
We're listening, and when you're quiet, it forces other people to have to talk.
These people who are sitting with you, who are the volunteers of CTC, coaches, myself as well, we are so excited to help you develop your story further. Before you come in Canvas, after you Canvas, at the Canvas. So thank you for giving this a try. We're going to just take a couple minutes to debrief. I know not everyone got through all of the workshop exercises that we tried to. And I'm willing to stick around afterwards to answer any questions. But let me just ask you, how did that feel? How did it feel? Yes. Tell us your name, Morgan.
Morgan, yes, I'm Morgan. Hi. It felt good. One of the things is getting to talk to people, and that is the point of canvassing, but you do build a relationship, and I believe it was said earlier, they may not remember your story, but you will remember theirs, and there will be something about it that touches you. So it is good. Sometimes we're all over the place, but we do have common ground, and this was the way to find said common ground.
One of the things I always love about this workshop is we come in, and so many of us are worked up about politics and what's going on in the world. People who tend to show up, I don't mean to ascribe anything to all the lovely people in this room. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But, it's upsetting what's going on in the world. And then all of a sudden we're talking about people we love. And we open up. And we smile. And sometimes we cry. And we have these deep, really meaningful exchanges. Right? And it's a safe space where we can try this out. Right? I certainly hope that anyone, who tried it out felt safe in this space. You know, one of the things that Ellen was touching on that I meant to touch on at the beginning, to build on what you're saying, Morgan, right, is that if we're going to lay the groundwork for the person to speak about themselves, we're doing a good job, right? Because what are we thinking about with these 115,000 people who are registered to vote but didn't vote in 2020, right? If we want to think if we can change their minds, right? We want to persuade them to change their minds. But I can't actually persuade you to change your mind. All I can do is try to understand who you are and help you persuade yourself, right? So we can't change your mind unless we get to know you, right? And I can't get to know you without understanding who you are. And this is what we have found works. Okay, sorry about that diatribe. Anyone else? Did someone else want to say about how that felt? Yes?
So, bordering on tears.
Bordering on tears. Okay, yeah. It can be intense, right? This is part of the reason we practice this here, right? I want to just really flag about this being a safe space and it being important to practice, and that there are coaches who would love to support you before you go out and canvass, and after you canvass, and at the canvass. Because sometimes people practice a story and then they're knocking on someone's door and they're like, oh, I don't actually want to come out to this person, right? We think it's important to be vulnerable, but you have to you'll figure out what works for you, and we're happy to support you in that way. And these can be very touching stories, so thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I guess, touch on what you just said, like sort of figuring out what you want to share. I think that's something that probably will change. Like as I was talking, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, maybe it was too personal or something. And I just think that that's a really, like an interesting line you have to balance when going to talk to brand people about it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it's really great to practice it here. We're going to have another story workshop Thursday night. We welcome, encourage you to join us. It'll be a little bit more, it'll be virtual, so you don't even have to show up. And I mean, you can get lost on Zoom, but you won't get lost on your way here. And, you know, ask for feedback. And Zion, is it Zion?
Yep.
You know, the thing I would also offer, the best guide to whether or not you'll feel comfortable sharing this is you, right? I think you know what you're comfortable with. And you have friends in this room who are happy to support you. Anyone else? Raj.
When I was watching the video for the first time of you with, I think, Kim, I was like, wow, you're really oversharing. And then when you were asking about her boyfriend and stuff, I was like, wow, you're really just like diving right in there. And why is she talking with you, not backing away? And then when we went through it, I was like, it's remarkable how you can create intimacy so quickly, especially when you're listening to someone. It feels a little embarrassing or awkward when you're saying, I love my partner Tara, and she's so great because of this, or she saved cats. But then when I was listening to Michael and Alex talk about their part, you're suddenly like, you're receptive, and they're really sharing something, and you're getting to know them very quickly, so it puts you in a space where you feel much more comfortable. And so like 3 minutes, you're kind of, you know, like, we're best buddies now. Like,
yeah, it takes time. And not every conversation, of course, is like that. That's why we have a limited number of those videos. And I could show you videos of early on in this work that I look terrible in, right? And it really, you know, tell me your name, by the way? Paul. Paul here, you know, I think you were sort of saying, right? A lot of people, when they first see this video or go through this workshop, like, whoa, dude, I'm just talking about voting. What are you going all over in your personal story and who you love and your kid? What does that have to do with oversharing, right? And yet it works. I mean, the randomized control trials of efforts to persuade people show that deep canvassing is the most effective way to change someone's mind. On many issues, this has been shown across study and study, and it is long lasting. It takes time, but it works. Yes?
What I hope is a quick question. I noticed in the video that you didn't sort of say like, can I tell you a story? I mean, you sort of like just launched into the story. I was wondering if that's something that maybe we just learn another time, but like, I feel like there needs to be like a little entree into like can I tell you a story or something like, you know?
So, yes, we will go more into that. And part of that is the script that we actually use. The most important part of which is the story exchange. And I don't ever ask anyone permission. Because I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to talk about anything I want within reason, right? I mean, I hate to sound childish, but it's a free country, right? As long as you're standing in front of me, I get to talk to you. I mean, I'm from New York. You know what people talk to me about on the sidewalk? So like, I'm just gonna say, like, this is pretty low key, right? You might get bored, I'm not offended, I'm happy to be here, you know? And the more, if you ask people permission, it is so tempting to say, do you have a minute to talk? The answer is gonna be no, because they don't. Because you are not on their agenda, there is food on the grill, they've got kids who need diapers changed, right? It's never a good time to canvass, right? There's always an Eagles game, right? And so we just have to give ourselves permission to be at those doors. And we have to persuade ourselves, this is what I find to be useful, what people have said have been useful. Just remember, this is maybe the most important thing I can be doing. And maybe it is. I am so happy to take questions.
Adam, I just want to add one thing. The script really does pave the way from talking about elections and who we love. So it really creates the connection.
And I'm happy to stick around and answer more questions. I do want to try and wrap it up. This is a part 1 of a part 2 training where you will get the script, where you will see the script. We will have more training on Thursday if you want to do this again virtually before you show up. Our website is right there, CTC, the number 4, the word progress.org, CTC for progress. You can sign up there. How many people here want to give this a try and come out and talk to some voters with us?